My name's James. I'm a web developer. Never used Joomla before until about 3 hours ago. I have an OB database with lots of international support required, trying to work out CMSE type stuff, which way to go, etc.
Cool.
I'm Gabby from Sussex. We're trying to set up a website, a shopping website for the products that we want to sell. So we want to see how we can use Joomla to the best, really, with the shopping system.
And have you played with websites before?
I'm not the main person that uses it. I'm just doing little bits of that myself.
Awesome. Great.
I'm Stuart Forrester. I run a marketing communication company in Cambridge. We have been using Joomla for 4 years, so you probably wondering why we're sitting here. It's because we do websites through the public sector, NHS trusts and things like that, and we get asked a lot of questions as to why Joomla is the right choice for them. Is it safe? Is it secure? And things like that. So I figured this would be a good place to see what the real answers are.
Perfect. I might be the right answer.
Great question. My name's Ross Lowe. I'm with Jigsaw Web Design, which is Jodie's company, and only been with the company very briefly, and only experienced Joomla for the first time about a month and a half ago. So very much at the beginning stage of learning to use it, but also got other projects have been bubbling away under the surface, and interested to see how Joomla might be able to take them forward as well.
Very cool.
Well, I'm Sandra, and I'm from a WordPress background, and I just want to know about Joomla.
Excellent.
That's it.
And from a WordPress background, are you a user, a developer, a designer?
Both. All of them.
All of them, all the above. Excellent. Thank you.
I'm Luke, I'm from Ubelly. I'm here to write up this session. But I'm interested in, one, how do you sell Joomla in? Sort of that sort of aspect of why Joomla. And two, why, looking at it within the wider sort of ecosystem of CMSs.
Excellent.
Hi, my name is Sawani, and I'm a client of some Joomla developers, and I'd just like to know more about Joomla itself.
Very good. And sir in the back.
My name's Chris. I'm from web hosting provider Rockin, and we host 1 or 2 Joomla websites. I'm just here to find out what goodness Ryan's going to share with us. Oh boy.
No pressure.
Yes, exactly. I'll go here and then back.
Hi, my name is Justin Zinda. I am a teacher, an engineer, and training now for the bar to become a barrister. I came here today because I'm in an urgent need to finalize a website which possibly by next week must be running. I've got a website already which has been working with GoDaddy for a year and a half, so I know the functionality of this thing. My reason to be here today is to find out if I'll have an easy task to design another website which will focus on my Supreme Court Supreme Court hearing in October, end of October. It is on a very important judicial decision which will affect a lot of people in England. It is about home repossession by banks, which the banks are repossessing people's property without going through the due process. I won the case in the Court of Appeal. The bank appeal, the Court of Appeal reverses the decision by twisting the facts, so it is in the Supreme Court, possibly to go to Europe. So I need, my reason for being here is actually to have a petition transferred to that website, a petition so we can have signature, people sign, so you can read. That's my reason for being here.
Awesome.
That's it. Thank you. Sorry I've been long and everything.
No. Thank you.
Interesting.
And right next to you.
My name's Scott. I work at Jigsaw Web Design as well, so a colleague of Ross's. I'm mostly doing SEO type work, so trying to set sites up, trying to get good ranks and that sort of stuff, but I don't know the content system as well as I could do in order to sort of get in and start to make the functional changes you need to do. So a little bit more.
Very cool. And in the back.
I'm Craig Kitterman. I'm with Microsoft Corporate out of the United States, and my job is working with open source communities and trying to figure out how we can bridge the gap between our technologies and a number of open source technologies. And right now I'm looking at CMSs and in particular trying to learn about Joomla.
Excellent. Very good.
John O'Reilly. Although I work in IT, I've never done any website design or anything like that, but I've been asked to create a website for a charity. So the reason I'm here to is Joomla.
Excellent.
My name's Levi. I work for Web Editors Limited, and they use a Joomla system, and I just want to apply that.
Very cool. And I'm Ryan. That's what you saw earlier. And as I said, the reason why I got involved in Joomla to start with is because I wanted to help out nonprofit organizations as well, and help charities get up and running with their websites. And I think that what I can talk about today, some of the things that Luke had addressed, is just understanding, how do we sell Joomla? What are the ways in which we communicate to others the values that Joomla has? There's been a lot of diversity in the kinds of things that people were looking for, but I do think it'd be interesting looking back at the top issues here of just talking a bit about how Joomla fits in the context of other CMSs, how it fits in the context of other pieces of software that you want to work alongside of that, and then maybe even talking a bit more about, once we understand that, what are some of the big questions people have about security, about scalability, about design flexibility. There's a lot of things we can do.
Compatibility.
Is about what?
Compatibility.
Compatibilities. There's a lot that we can talk about in 45 minutes, and what I think would be good is to start with those, and then hopefully that will solicit some questions from you guys, and feel free to make this a question-driven session, because I only have one PowerPoint presentation I like to give, and I've already given it. Not that I don't like PowerPoint, but it's just I'd rather talk and engage rather than speak at you guys for 45 minutes. How's that sound?
Cool. Great.
Okay. Okay, so to get started, first of all, at a very macro level, thinking about Joomla as a content management system and what are the other tools that you'd be wanting to bring together. I know we talked a bit about, somebody spoke about looking at e-commerce and even looking at other tools like WordPress. What does a CMS mean in the larger picture of your web development tool set, I guess? From my perspective, a content management system like Joomla is really focused on web publishing as well as online communications. That could be many-to-many or one-to-many type of relationships. I've seen too often where people have tried to take a content management system or a blogging tool and make it something more than it really is. So trying to use something like Joomla to be your accounting system or to be your billing processing system might not be as effective as just using another piece of software. So I know a lot of times people look at the WordPress community and they say that is the gold standard for making great blogging software, very focused on blogging, and now it's doing a lot more than blogging software. In fact, it's so popular, I think, that Microsoft moved, what was it, the Live
Spaces.
Right, yes, from their tool over to the WordPress.com platform. So they do a terrific job on the blogging side. As a content management system, Joomla really is compared against two other big open source CMSs. One is WordPress, which I just talked about before, which can be found at wordpress.org. And the other is Drupal, D-R-U-P-A-L, and that can be found at drupal.org. And in my presentation, I kind of laid out the basic spectrum as to what people see when they hear about the three big systems, essentially. That on one side you have WordPress, which seems to be very focused on ease of use. It was born from a blogging platform, really specifically on blogging, and now it's grown to a lot more than just blogging. At the other end you have Drupal, which has been really focused on developers and giving developers a lot of tools that they can build essentially whatever they want on a website. Neither one of them, it's tough because a content management system can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. So there's even been debate as to, like, is WordPress a CMS? Is something really a CMS? And rather than diving into the debate, let's just say all three of these are CMSs of some flavor or another, and let's talk about the differences among them so you can kind of make a better understanding as to where Joomla might be a good fit for you. When looking at the three, I really think about small organizations or individuals that are really looking to do straightforward content publishing, blogging, and maybe some commenting and some small communications with their community will do terrific on WordPress. If you just want to get up and running, quick blog, ready to go, WordPress is great for you. It can be great for much bigger things, like I think the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and a lot of other big publications use WordPress, but as a solution for folks here that are interested in just getting a basic blog up and running, it's a great starting point. Joomla has blogging functionality like core to its existence, but it has a bit more complexity to it that might make it a little more challenging for a newbie, somebody who's just trying to get up and running with the blogging software. On the other end of the spectrum, if what you're trying to do with the sites that you're building is something more complex and that you're looking to take the requirements of a Jigsaw client and really build something extremely complex where you're building a lot of essentially PHP code and building new apps, something like Drupal actually might be a good fit for you because it's really, their tagline is community plumbing. It's really about, giving developers tools to like just build stuff. And that's about it. You're getting a pile of tools to create things from scratch, which for newbies in the room might be a bit more difficult to just pick up and start a blog or to start a community website. But for developers in the room, it might be easier for you to kind of get up and running with something a bit more powerful than just a basic blogging tool. And right in the middle is Joomla, square in the middle. And what Joomla's strength has been is to try to keep that balance of ease of use with the balance of making developers happy. And the way in which the community has done that, which is very different from the two other projects, I believe, has been over the course of the last 3 years, Joomla did a fundamental shift in the way in which we thought about our software. We really looked at it as a framework, which you can think of as like the operating system for your website. And on top of that, the content management system, which would be like an application that you run on that operating system. By doing that, the developers are able at that framework, that very base operating system level, to build a lot of the tools that people in the Drupal community get to play with. At the same time, you can have other developers that are really focusing on the application, the content management system, that makes it easy for end users to create blogs, e-commerce, shopping cart tools, and other things. During the last 6 months, that not necessarily split, but the demarcation of those two became stronger when the Joomla leadership said there are effectively 2 projects now in the Joomla world. One is the Joomla platform project, and the other one is the Joomla content management system. So for new folks in the room, you're more likely going to be focusing your energies in the Joomla content management world. That's the things that people click on the sites and it allows you to create content really easily. On the other side of it, just so you have knowledge of it, you're going to hear more and more about the Joomla platform, which I was talking about today, and I showed the example of. The next generation of Joomla is going to start looking and sounding and feeling a lot different because all of a sudden you're going to hear about Joomla apps that don't look like the CMS, that have nothing to do with blogging, it's not a forum, it's not a community site, it's something completely different. In looking at where you want to make an investment as a company or an organization, my own company as well as others are putting their investments in Joomla because I think that demarcation of the 2 different projects going on in the Joomla world represent the core strength of the community, which is that over time, as the web continues to evolve, Joomla isn't going to be a one-trick pony. It's not just going to be a basic blogging platform or not just a bunch of tools for developers to use. It's still going to be able to have that balance of making developers happy as well as end users and administrators happy. And the way it's going to do that is by having 2 parallel projects that work together so that every time there's a release of the platform, all those cool tools get to be used by the CMS developers as they're trying to make the CMS better and easier for folks to make blogs, to make e-commerce tools, etc. So that's all really new, like 2011 new. It's been built into the recipe that is Joomla over the course of the last 3 years, but the emphasis of the project focusing on that is relatively new in the course of the last 6 to 8 months. So do people generally understand that Joomla used to be just a CMS, but now we're really thinking about there's 2 core projects that are happening in the Joomla world? Does that generally make sense? I'm happy to explain. Okay. With that, we start to get away from the spectrum of WordPress, Drupal, other CMSs, because now we're talking about a community and a system where developers can start building whatever they want. So when you're using Joomla and when you're investing in the growth of the community and for your own website, know that you're also going to be able to do things that go well beyond just the CMS, and just to keep that in mind. Like, don't keep yourself locked into saying, gosh, if only there were an add-on or extension for the CMS that could do this crazy thing that I want to do. Now you're going to be able to say, well, gosh, I wonder if there's a developer that can just use this platform and just make a little app, a widget or something that allows me to get this very specific need done for developers that are looking to do that, and implementers that are also looking to provide solutions to clients. Super new. We're seeing some examples. I hope to have better examples by the end of tomorrow to show the world, but very, very, very exciting stuff. And when you're looking to, if you work for a consulting firm that is developing sites that are using Joomla, that is one of the biggest differentiators I think we have today to sell people on. Not just the size of the community, not just how many developers we have and that it's around the world, but also that we're taking things in a new direction, and we hope to be leading the way again on that.
Right, just a quick question there. As far as, we're core PHP at the moment as a solution. We use developers in Cambridge who are very happy with the .NET development platform and Java and other technologies. How will this framework allow those sort of technologies to come into play, or will they be just sort of interfaces to bolt into rather than?
My thought is that, the core of Joomla, CMS, and the platform will all still be written in PHP. And not being a developer, I can tell you what the developers tell me, the leading developers in the project tell me. And that's really that one of the key goals of the Joomla platform project is not to create the next Ruby on Rails for PHP or to compete against like Zend or something else, but rather, especially in one of the toughest fiscal or economic times the world has seen, to be able to take all of the Joomla developers that are running 2.7% of the world's websites and give them the same knowledge and tools they have already to start building things beyond the CMS. So really, it's like, how do we give this wonderful community of 250,000 plus registered developers tools, the same knowledge, same tools, but to do something totally different outside of the CMS. So that's really been the focus of the leadership. How that plays out over time, I think, is going to be very interesting, to say the least.
If you have designed, for instance, some pages using Dreamweaver CS5, with Firework CS5, can you incorporate that with some of the pages on your Joomla website?
Can you say the first part again? If you're using,
if you have designed, you have designed some pages, web pages using the CSS technology thing with Dreamweaver.
Yep.
Can you add them together with the pages which have been downloaded?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the answer is yes.
Okay.
And the way that you would want to do it is that maybe you make the design in Photoshop or Fireworks or Dreamweaver.
Yes.
And at some point you need to make sure that the design is something that can be converted into a Joomla template.
That's right.
And then once you get to that point, you can take your Dreamweaver that just has the HTML and the CSS, and then you can apply what you need to have it run in the Joomla CMS by using the Joomla template code. And then you're ready to go and make the site work, or make your design work with the Joomla website.
Okay.
So yes, the answer is yes, you can do that. Other questions for now? Cool. So that's looking at it. Now there's, I think if you look at, there was a website called CMS Matrix. I think there's a couple out there that kind of list all the different CMSs that are in the world. There's hundreds, if not 500 plus different CMS of different flavors that you can use. At the end of the day, I believe, and Luke, don't 100% quote me on this, but I believe that WordPress, Drupal, and Joomla, the three of those, make up more than I think it's more than 20% of the web's top 1 million websites that are using a CMS today. I think that's roughly the number. Everything else after that is less than 1%. Doesn't mean you shouldn't look at them or you shouldn't use them. If you're looking to see where the energy is and where the growth is and why people are looking at certain tools more than others, you can see that among those top 3 services that are out there. All of them happen to be PHP based, which is an open source. Well, it's a programming language that a lot of open source developers tend to use. So that's looking at it broad as to how Joomla would compare to other CMSs. And looking at Joomla in the larger context, a lot of what I was saying earlier is that organizations too often try to shove a lot into their Joomla website. Like they try to make it either community forum, their billing system, their CMS, their blogging platform, etc. One of the best takeaways I think you'll have over the course of the next 2 days is to build extension, installation, resistance or temptation. Resist the temptation of installing too many extensions into your Joomla site. With over 8,000 mostly free add-ons you can just download and install into Joomla, it's really easy to say, like, of course I need this weather widget, and of course I need this countdown till the space junk lands somewhere in Canada. Like, that all makes sense. The recommendation would be to find ways to build up resistance to the temptation to just download and install the apps. And mostly it's because over time, if you're not updating those or if you're not keeping them in check, you could be opening yourself up to security vulnerabilities. If you're not a developer, you're not going to really know how it was built, so maybe it's going to cause some performance hit on your website. Generally, look to do as much as you can with just the core Joomla CMS, and then when you absolutely need to, add on other features. And only add on those other features into your website if they really belong in your website. So a good example, I think, is a CRM tool, like a customer relationship management tool. There's some that try to shove themselves into Joomla as the CMS that I think make it a bit clunky for people to use. Like there are tools out there from Microsoft to Salesforce to many others, Sugar CRM, that are either free, open source, or affordable for organizations that were built just to do CRM functionality. Why try to shove in an extension into a content management system to do CRM functions when really what you should be looking at is what plays nicely with Joomla? Not what can we shove into Joomla, but what plays nicely, what integrates with it well. And the more you can find tools that have good bridges connecting to Joomla, rather than things that just try to shove themselves into Joomla, I think you're going to find in the long run you're going to be more successful, you have less headaches, and you won't have to worry so much about incompatibilities with that code living inside Joomla. And to be honest, you're going to have less restrictions in general. Somebody's building an application that's just for, you know, an e-commerce shopping cart or some other functionality. That's all they need to worry about. And with a Joomla connection, maybe it's just a bridge so that users can log into one and they can move to the other really seamlessly. If you try to shove it into Joomla, then they've got to take in a lot of other considerations as well. So it's really, I would just say continue to hold that resistance of installing too many things at once that are going to make it really difficult for you to upkeep. Have folks here, especially new folks, have you found it's pretty easy to download and install new extensions from the Joomla extensions directory? Has that been pretty straightforward for folks?
Not tried it.
Not tried it yet. Yeah. Extensions.joomla.org is the place to go. Extensions.joomla.org. And when you go there, it's just, you know, it's like you're walking into a candy store. Everything is free, essentially. When you download something from one of the providers there, at the end of the day, you're just downloading a zip file, just one file. And to install it, you just go into your Joomla administrator, and in there's a way to install extensions, and it's just a click button. It uploads that zip file and it does whatever is necessary to install it on your website. So very easy, it doesn't require any development, no coding, no designing. It's just normally a couple of clicks away from you being able to install things as add-ons to Joomla. Which is why it's so easy to be tempted by adding on a bunch of new things.
So if that doesn't work out, if you download it,
Right.
it's a problem, can you easily delete it?
Yeah, so there's an uninstall process as well, the same thing. You can
Same way.
choose what you want to uninstall and uninstall
Well,
it.
that what can I say? Returning to the starting point. I mean, if you damage your pages, when you disinstall it
Right.
and install it,
Right.
you get the initial page which was destroyed by